offer the best grooming products for you, That's all natural and handcrafted too. We wanna help be your swagger, your style, class, and luxury. We make our products tailor-made for you with high quality. So get in style with the Black, Company. To give you swagger, style, class, and luxury. The Black Gentleman Company. To give you swagger, style, class, and luxury.
Located at www.theblackgent.com.
Yo. What's good? It's Stormy B-Man, and I am back. Welcoming you to Kung Fu Film Focus for this Thursday, August 28th, 2025. This is a Kung Fu Film Focus where we will feature a review of Shaolin Abbott, aka Slice of Death, a Shaw Brothers production from 1979. This film was within a series of films that concentrated on the monks from Shaolin who went just before the temple was originally destroyed and went out and sought to spread amongst the anti-Qing rebels, to spread a method of them being able to protect themselves, their families, and their land. This film is one of a series where we see Lo return to a reprised role of playing the white-eyebrowed priest, better known as Paime. Paime was a real personality in history and came from the Wu-Tang clan and mountains of Wu-Tang Kung Fu. He, in some stories, led the Qings against the rebellion Mings. And though he was thought to be one of the best martial artists of the era, he was villainous in wanting to see the destruction of the Shaolin Temple. So we're going to talk about that a little bit this evening. Come on in and smash the like button and get a chance to learn a little bit about these films. This film was starring David Chong Ta-wai, also better known as David Chang, in the early 70s. And this was a film where he played the monk Chi San, and he even shaved his head for the role. One of the things about the monks is they took vows to remain devoted to their faith, which was Buddhism. And part of that would mean to sacrifice, like giving up meat. Of course, women dedicating their studies to physical fitness, prowess, and unyielding devotion to Buddha. They would shave their heads, and depending upon what degree of monk you happen to be, there was symbolic tattoos that would go on the top of their heads. In some of the films that feature Shaolin priests, you'll see they'll have these little circular dots on the top of just above their brow or their hairline on their forehead, on their top of the hair skull, I should say. Sometimes it'll be just a couple of dots, sometimes it'll be 3, sometimes it'll be 6, and sometimes it'll be 9. But I don't know the exact numerical value of those markings. But one of the other things that priests would go through were rituals of advancement in the martial arts. There were chambers, and it was broken down into various fists and weapon styles. There were the 18 low hand maneuvers, the 36 chambers, and some various other pole styles and different weapons that were developed throughout Shaolin's run. Students were very eager to learn martial arts in Shaolin, especially being youthful enough to go through the rigors of the athletic movements that were required. So gymnastics would become a form of that, and flexibility as well as endurance. Even to this day, Shaolin practitioners have gone through tremendous rigors to develop their bodies, but also their minds. I want to take a quick moment and acknowledge who we got in the chat here. Let's see who we got out there this evening. We've got a few people. Universal Truth back with us early in the chat, saying salute sensei. Derek Gaines is back with us saying Stormy B-Man, salute brother, right back at you. Says I need to watch some old school kung fu movies. Well, what you doing, man? Coming around in here and you ain't watched nothing. F+, I say. Yeah. He said, I just watched Fist of Legends, and you misspelled Legends, so a double F plus for you, huh? And you just watched it, so it's no excuse. Main Biker in the building saying, good evening, Stormy and chat. What's happening with you? Eric Jordan, my young brothers out there, saying, Stormy B-Man, salute Sensei. Shogun 76, the real Shogun of Harlem. Figured you'd be in here this evening, brother. How you doing? Good to see you out there, saying salute. And Kamaran Fields is out there with us this evening saying, salute Stormy and chat. Work in the morning. We'll watch the replay. Blessings to you and the chat. Thank you so much, Kamaran. All right. Who else we got out there? Eric says, phenomenal pick, Sensei. And Derek is laughing with the double laughs, huh? To go with the double F pluses. Yeah. Main Biker says, like Krillin from Dragon Ball 2, he bald-headed and have those dots on his head. Yeah, man. Yeah. So, and where you think they got it, huh? Because Dragon Ball ain't been around as long as Shaolin Abbott. You dig? Yeah. Now, David Chang Tawai, the star of this film, had been noted to be in numerous Shaw Brothers films, but this was approaching the late 70s. And he, from 1969 on through, I would say 1974 or 75, had been a major player in Shaw Brothers Productions, forming a part of what they once called the Iron Triangle with he, Tai Lung, and Chen Kwa Tai. After Jimmy Wong Yu had left the studios in 1970, instead of banking one male star out of their studio because they ran into the problems with Jimmy Wong Yu that led to lawsuits and what have you, they decided to make an ensemble of stars and feature them to varying degrees, having them in roles that would depict them being a part of a unit, and then eventually someone that's part of that would be villainous. So that was something that they created a new trend in their action films and martial art films of the early to mid 70s. And David Chang Tawai was a huge part of that. A real life Kung Fu man. I think he practiced the Hung Gar style of martial arts with some elements of Wing Chun. I remember seeing a Shaw Brothers behind the scenes film featuring David Chang Tawai, where he was riding a motorcycle and he was giving an interview practicing his martial arts. They used to call him the Elastic Man or the Rubber Man because he was very flexible and started his career being a stunt double. But he grew up in the cinematic world because his parents had introduced him to the movies when he was quite young, he and his brother. And he would later on become a star in his own right. In fact, here's a bit of trivia for you. As David Chang Tawai was starting to become a big star with Shaw Brothers, in 1973, he had befriended Bruce Lee, who had visited the Shaw Studios a few times because he was trying to get a deal worked out between himself and Run Shaw to make a film for Shaw Brothers Studios. Seeing that at that moment, Bruce was the biggest star in Hong Kong, Chang Tai-wai had worked out a deal where he was going to film his first directorial debut, and he had talked to Bruce about negotiating filming in Bruce Lee's mansion in Hong Kong at the time, in Kowloon Tong. That place where Bruce Lee lived was kind of an upscale unit for the crowded space of Hong Kong. And at the time, it would have been a great piece of property to film interiors or exteriors because they had a nice garden and everything. The unit was fenced in. However, Bruce Lee passed away before David Chang Tai could film the film. But I do believe they still let him film there. Something was worked out with Raymond Chow of Golden Harvest Studios, who had went into the venture of buying that purchasing that property with Bruce Lee, and something was worked out where they were still able to do something. And then there were a couple of other films that were shot on the premises of that estate. Just a side note there. Back to the film, Shaolin Abbott, also known in some circles as Slice of Death or Abbott of Shaolin. This film was shot in Hong Kong and in Mandarin, and its theatrical run was from July 11th, 1979 to July 18th, 1979, and it brought in a box office equivalent of $116,880. Just a 1 week run there. It's like the films were in and out of the theaters quite often because there were so many films flooding the market at the time. So if something was really popular, it made its money right up front. There was not a length of time where films could just hang around. The film was directed by Ho Meng-hwa, who had done other films such as The Flying Guillotine. Some of you may have seen that if you're a martial arts film aficionados. And the director of martial arts for this film was Tong Tak Chung. And he was a guy who you've seen in numerous Shaw Brothers films and other Hong Kong action and martial art films as playing a stuntman or a baddie or some kind of henchman or something like that. The kung fu in this film is basic, but what makes it appealing are the stars. As I said, David Chang Tai is the lead as Monk Chi San. Lo Lei is playing Paime. Cheng Mao is playing Mr. Lee. Ko Kwan Chung is playing Dao Di. Lily Lee is in this film, and she's playing the monk Wu Mei, who was supposedly the one who initiated Wing Chun martial arts. Norman Chu is in here. Yang Chi Ching is in here. Chang Tao, who you guys would remember from a number of Shaw Brothers films, playing a baddie, and also later would be in the Bruce Lee films with Wong King Lung playing Bruce Lee-like roles. There are quite a few familiar faces in film. And these guys were all, again, starting out as Shaw Brothers. There's a lot of familiarity. The plot goes as such. The monk Chi Sang, played by David Chang, is sent by his Shaolin masters to learn a special form of kung fu from a Wu Tang prince and befriends his niece Wu Mei. The priest's brother is Paime, played by Lo Lei, who disapproves of he associating with Shaolin rebels who oppose the Qing. So Paime leaves as his nephew Dao Di, played by Ku Kwan Chun, remains behind to cause trouble for Chi Sang. While Chi Sang is in training, the Qing soldiers and the Northern Lama attack and destroy Shaolin Temple. Chi Sang arrives too late as the attack has already run its course, and his masters order him to go to the south to search for loyal Shaolin men and rebuild the temple. Now, one of the things about the the attack on the Shaolin Temple by the Qing army is in every film that I've seen where they are showing the Qing soldiers attacking Shaolin. It's always very graphic. It's always very brutal. And they wanted to totally wipe out Shaolin because people were retreating to Shaolin to rebel against the Qing government and empire. So they figured that with Shaolin teaching Kung Fu, because remember, there weren't like guns that they had at that time or anything. So they would learn weaponry, they would learn hand-to-hand combat skills as well as kicking and things of that nature. And after going to Shaolin for a duration, men were leaving the temple, coming out, being very adept at defending themselves. So they would go out into the provinces and attack Qing soldiers and try to overthrow their oppressors. All the more reason why when the emperor sent them out to wipe Shaolin out, they didn't want any backlash. They didn't want any resistance from the common man. So when Shaolin Temple was destroyed, there were 5 Shaolin monks who escaped the destruction of Shaolin Temple. And they would go off into the provinces and form groups that would build resistance against the empire. And there are films that depict those soldiers. There's a film called Shaolin Temple that actually features David Chang and Tai Long and a few others, Alexander Fuxing. Then there's the 5 Shaolin Masters, which has Fuxing, David Chang, Tai Long, what's his name? I can't think of his name right now. Forgive me, I got so many things going through my mind. But these films would show how the resistors and the rebels from Shaolin would fight back against the Qing armies by cultivating their skills and forming militias. Those militias throughout history would eventually form what we now refer to as triads in China and Hong Kong. So the triads originally came from those five Shaolin families, and some triads are good people and some have been known to be corrupt criminals, but it's just a way of things. And sometimes it just depends on what vantage point you stand and the actions that you're taking, more so than you just being a good person or a bad person. So, and that's a part of those people's culture, and it's to be respected because there's a whole lot that explains what's going on with that. And to the Western ear, eye, and mind, there's a lot to be taken in, to be understood about them. So I say that out of respect. Yes. Getting back to the film again, the martial arts that we see from Chi San, he was like the #1 student in the temple at the time that they sent him out on this mission. Also a part of his mission, when he went to Wu-Tang Mountain, he was supposed to learn how to make weapons, eventually leading to how to make the gun and bullets for the gun. See, there's a little bit of history in this film, but you have to understand what really transpired in history to be able to even understand it, because it's a martial art film from the era of the 70s. Not a lot is given to those aspects of the plot, but when they would say something and say, you're gonna go do this, you're gonna learn, and they're dropping a line of dialogue, and even though you don't get to eventually see everything, you later learn and find out, oh, this is a bit of history taking place here. This film is the second film that features Lole playing Priest Paime. First outing playing Priest Paime was Executioners of Shaolin. And that film starred in the leading role Chin Kwa Tai. And Paime was going after, because I think that, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. Let me double check my source before I say what I was going to say. Hold on one second, people. I need to double check something, because I don't like to get this wrong. Let's see here. Filmography. Okay, I'll go back there. Yeah. Do it this way. Okay, Executioners from Shaolin. That was from 1977. Yeah. And I what I was looking for, because I wanted to speak correctly when I said that Chen Kwa Tai in that film was playing the lead role of Hung Si Quan. Hung Si Quan is a historical figure in Chinese history. He led fighters from Shaolin Temple to fight against the Qing dynasty. And in this film, Executioner from Shaolin, Hung Si Quan battles against Priest Paime. And that's where I wanted to make sure he was playing Hung Si Quan, because Paime in Executioners of Shaolin is really a dual role in that film, because there's another film called Clans of the White Lotus. And that film, you see him playing Paime again, and the White Eyebrows priest. So there's a lot going on here, you know, with Paime. But Paime was a guy who not only had a masterful skill set in martial arts, but he had learned the ability to be invulnerable to knives and blades and things of that nature. His skin was hardened, and that's depicted in these films when he's taking battle against some of the rebels. Again, hyped up to a little bit of where you kind of look at and say, oh, that couldn't happen in real life. But you'd be surprised the measure and pain threshold that the old school martial art practitioners put themselves through. They could resist almost anything with the exception of a bullet. And even there's a film out about that, because there was a movement that tried to fool the Empress Dowager about taking bullets. And they, you know, they hammed it up and they faked and falsified it to build the spirit of the people to follow them as rebels. But it turns out once they got out there on the battlefield and they faced their Gatling gun, a lot of them were mowed down instantly. Just another sidebar of history, historic notes about the rebels fighting against the Qing dynasty. David Chang's Chi San is really a good fighter in this film. He has a very youthful appearance, David Chang. I think when this film was made, he may have been roughly, what can I say, maybe 27 years old or something like that. He was 28, 29, something like that, in his mid to late 20s. but he maintained a youthful appearance on until into his 40s, did David Chang. And he was one of my favorite Shaw Brothers actors. He could play serious roles, he could play comedic roles, kind of goofy roles, but he was, and he's still around today. He's still playing in Hong Kong films today, but he's finally got, Father Time has caught up to him, so he's playing older individuals now and everything. But I've always had an appreciation for what he brought on film, and he was so thin and small. He was a very small framed guy. It was like, between he and Tai Lung, they were great actors and got the bulk of the acting work out of Shaw Brothers and did like the best films. The highest budgeted productions were the ones that were set aside for those two men. I see we got a couple more people that's coming to the building out there. Anybody got any questions about this film? Any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Stormy B Man can answer some questions for you. When I was putting this show together a few days ago, I saw this thumbnail and I was like, man, I really like this thumbnail that I selected for this backdrop. And it's not even a picture or image that's on the screen presently. I'll show you what I'm talking about. This particular image right here, I really like it. I like that image. The film has been remastered on Blu-ray, like a 2K restoration. If you haven't seen it, it looks great. It really does. And that final battle between Chi San and Paime is pretty good. Yeah. Eric is asking, what was the kill technique called? You know what? I just watched the film a couple days ago. I don't remember what the kill technique was called, Eric. I know that Paime was like, he was kind of ruthless, man. He just was killing people. And in this film, different from the films where he played opposite Chen Kwai Tai and Gordon Liu, against David Chang's character of Chi Sang, he was not really better than Chi Sang. Chi Sang was more intelligent, but their martial prowess might have been kind of almost like equal, but Chang was able to defeat him. So, any more questions? I'm trying to see if I could figure out. This wasn't one of the more popular Shaw Brothers films that featured the monks and Paime. But I can remember, like, after I saw the other two films, and I was like, man, I know that there was another film I saw Paime fighting the monks. And I look for it, and finally I run across it as Slice of Death. I had it on an old VHS, and eventually I moved from the VHS to a DVD, which was just a print of the VHS on a disc, right? But now that it's been really remastered, it looks pretty darn good. An awesome film to add to the collection. Very much so. Main Biker says, a friend of mine is a Muay Thai fighter. You can hit his legs and arms with metal and he barely feels it. Yeah, there are some things that they can do to the flesh and build strength in the bones. And it's really amazing to see that. Joseph Townsend in the building. What's going on with you, Joe Townsend? The pimpin' in the building. Salute to you, brother. Eric Jordan is asking, why did they want to eliminate the Shaolin monks? Because, as I explained earlier, you might not have heard that part, Eric. I said that the emperor and the Qings, they found out that Shaolin was a place of refuge for rebels against the Qing dynasty. And the rebels, though they would run into the Qing oppressors throughout their provinces, when they escaped to Shaolin, it was Shaolin where they would learn how to defend and protect themselves, all the while developing their bodies and their physical prowess to be able to fight back against their oppressors. And that would be only after studying that Shaolin for a short period of time, like 8 months to 18 months to 3 years. And these guys would come back from the temple very formidable, able to take out a small portion of Qing oppressors or militia. So it's like, that's one of the reasons why the emperor was like, well, we got to get rid of the Shaolin temple, because that's a place where people can go and learn how to fight us back. So that was it. So yeah, so that's what went on with that, man. Main Biker's asking, I have a question, Stormy. Is your name Tong Lung? Yeah, man. Tong Lung. The way of the dragon. Well, I tell you, these films were so fun, man. These films were excellent. I love these films. And I could watch them, you know, and just totally understand what's being conveyed. Because I know enough about the culture now that it kind of puts me in a good place and space. That's why when I talk about these films, you know, I could give you a little backdrop on the history and everything too. Because it's important to know that not all of these films were just action films released to make money. Some of them were based on real historical people, of course, embellished for film's sake. But when you think about the monk Chi San or priest Paime or Wu Mei, those were all real historic figures in martial arts and Chinese history. Okay, Main Bike is asking, what's 3 of my favorite Kung Fu films? Well, one is Legend of a Fighter, and that stars Liang Jia-ran and Philip Ko-fei, directed and action directed by Yuan Wu-ping. Legend of a Fighter is a film that's based on Fok Young Gap, who was Ho Young Chao from Bruce Lee's Fist of Fury, the teacher that Bruce Lee was trying to avenge. That movie is about that teacher, Ho Young Chao, Fok Young Gap. Ho Young Chao is a Cantonese pronunciation. Fok Young Gap is the Mandarin pronunciation, I believe. So, I got it switched around. But yeah, that's one of my favorites. I love that film. I remember I didn't see it when it first came out. I saw it a few years after it had been out, and I saw it on VHS. Immediately fell in love with it. My other film that I like, my favorite, would be King Boxer, aka Five Fingers of Death, with Lo Lei. One of the first Kung Fu films released in America for Shaw Brothers. And it became an instant favorite of mine. I love that film to this day and don't mind watching it over and over and over again, because it's just fast-paced. It has high-octane action, great villains that are like the stereotypical mustache-twirling Japanese villains in there. And Lo Lei plays his role straight, and it works for some reason. It works. And my third favorite film, of course, is Bruce Lee's Fist of Fury. I love Fist of Fury. That's my favorite film. I've often said if I was stuck on the island and couldn't watch nothing but one film, that would be the one for me, because there's something going on in that film that a lot of people just don't pay attention to. In an era of where Kung Fu films were at their height, you have this westernized Chinese man in Bruce Lee playing Chen Jian, who is a member of the Qingwu school, who comes back to Shanghai after hearing of his teacher's death, but he's nothing like the rest of the students. You could kind of see where he might have been outcast, which is why he wasn't around when the teacher died. And he's kind of he's not level-headed. He's an action guy, and he don't think first, he fight first. And he's strong, and it's like he's like a firecracker that they can't contain. And Bruce Lee was kind of like that in real life. So that role was a natural for him, even down to the part where when he begins to take revenge for his teacher, you can see him slipping into becoming deranged. And there's this great sequence where he's sitting in the cemetery next to his teacher's tomb, and he's eating a roasted rabbit. He's roasting a rabbit over a fire. For so many years, I didn't know what the hell that was Bruce Lee was eating, man. But he's sitting there by the campfire, roasting this rabbit, and he's biting it, and he's looking around like a madman, right? It's like the dude is he snapped. And his girlfriend is coming up on him like, hey, it's me. He was like ready to fight her, He just kind of lost it in his mind. Those are my 3 favorites, man. I have a top 10, but it's like that. Those 3 right there, I could watch them at any given time because they're so entertaining. A lot of fun too. A lot of fun. Main Biker says, mine are Born Invincible, Fist of Legend, and Eagle's Claw. Eagle's Claw is pretty good, man. If you're talking about one with Ikwa Chong, Don Wong, and Chang Yi, that's the one you're talking about, main Biker. Because I got that on DVD. That's one of my favorites, man. He says mystery of chess boxing also. Mystery of chess boxing. You know, I did a review on that. I might do a review on that because mystery of chess boxing, I just got recently, within the last year, I got the remastered Blu-ray of that. Came in a box of Joseph Koo movies, and that's the director of the film. And it looks great on remastered Mystery of Chess Box. Yeah. Man, Biker says that fight in the dojo is still one of my faves. Which fight in the dojo? Because there's a famous fight in the dojo in Fist of Fury. There's one in Legend of a Fighter. There's one in King Boxer, aka Five Fingers of Death. So that you have to let me know which one you're talking about. Fist of Fury, okay. He says, I knew it was a rabbit all along. Listen, man, let me tell you something. When I was young, I thought he was eating a chicken at first. Then I thought it was a lizard or some kind, because you can't tell. It's like what it is on the skewer, and what gives it away is the bottom paws of the doggone rabbit. But when they were making that film, you could not really tell initially what that was he was eating, man. And he was chewing that sucker. I was like, whoa. Yeah. And I'll tell you something. One of my other favorites is Sonny Chiba's Street Fighter, man. I love that film. Sonny Chiba, man, he just crashed into literally the Kung Fu movie scene with the Street Fighter. That doggone Terry Segura that he plays in there, because he played him in like 4 films, I believe. But that dude, I would love to see the Street Fighter meet up with Bruce Lee. Because those two were psychos, man, when they were fighting. Sonny Chiba, as Terry Segura, he would start breathing, man. He act like he getting ready to throw up. He'd be... And then when they show him punch somebody, they'll show an x-ray of a skull getting smashed and stuff. Man, the Street Fighter was the first X-rated Kung Fu film. It used to play in the original run. It played in the film houses where they would play adult movies. That's because the rating with all of the broken limbs and stuff that Sonny Chiba did in that film, eyeballs being punched out of somebody's head and stuff. I remember he had this one guy, he had him bent over and he was asking him to tell him something. And the guy was like, okay, I'll tell you. And he told him what he wanted to know, and then he punched him in the back of the head, and they showed the dude's eyeballs pop out. Like, man, let me tell you something. Sonny Chiba was brutal. Do you hear me? He stabbed one dude with his fingers and killed him. And then when the dude fell down, he was looking at his fingers. It had blood on them. He started sniffing the blood. Not licking it, but sniffing it like. I was like, man, that dude's crazy. Sonny Chiba, man. That was my man, bro. I'll tell you. Him and Bruce Lee. I love those two guys. Yeah, Main Biker's asking, are you a fan of Ong Bak movies and The Protector by Tony Jaa? Yeah, absolutely. I have them in my collection, and I was thinking about doing a review of Ong Bak because that's one of the groundbreaking films with Tony Jaa, and that end fight scene in The Protector when he's going up the stairs of that hotel. It's all like one shot where he goes up and he's fighting somebody on each level of the stairs of that hotel. That's pretty cool. But yeah. My main biker, the irony about that is there are a number of boxers, especially from like my era, who grew up trying to pattern themselves after Bruce Lee, even through training and the way they would try to pattern their movements and stuff like that. He was heavily an influential person with combative arts. He says, what do you think of the movie The Raid? The Raid was an excellent film, man. It is a classic. It has been copied. I think that movie Dread copied it. Remember Dread? Not the one with Stallone, but the one with my man that plays what's the guy's name? Can't think of his name right now, but that's the guy that people, yeah, that Dread. And The Raid is basically taking Bruce Lee's concept for Game of Death, going into a tower and fighting your way up to the top. That's what The Raid is. But there's some action in The Raid that is just totally mind-blowing. Just some amazing stuff. You guys know that Michael Jai White shot a fight scene with David Carradine for the Kill Bill film. Tarantino filmed them a great fight scene between the two of them, and he cut it out of the final cut of the movie. I was like, man, why would you do that? Why would you do that? But yeah. Well, yeah, I love The Raid, man. See, main biker, I guess you probably thought Stormy wasn't up on those films, huh? The only ones I might not be up on, to be honest with you, main biker, is anything that was made over the past 5 years, because I kind of slowed down with watching the modern stuff over the past 5 years. But going back, yeah, because I love action films. Just like those Ip Man spinoffs like Master Z, I think. I like that. And Biker says, I'm an old soul when it comes to my Kung Fu movies. He says, back in the islands, my uncle got us into them and he used to practice Buddhist fist on everybody. And that was another thing, man, that we would practice those styles like off how we saw them on the screen, right? But never had any real books or any real people to teach you what it really was. So you imitating what you saw in the film. Yeah. Eric Jordan says, Ip Man was phenomenal films. Not all of them. The first two were okay. But they got to be a little bit much. Fighting Mike Tyson and all of that. There was no Mike Tyson back in Ip Man's days. No Mike Tyson. Yep. But man, it's getting close to that wrap up time. It's like, wow, the hour goes by so fast. My goodness. My goodness. But if you guys, out of the show of everybody that came in here this evening, if you haven't seen Shaolin Abbott, but you like Paime, check this film out. You gotta check it out. It's pretty darn good. Pretty darn good. So yeah, check that out. Man, Barker says, till this day, one of the most gangster moves was when Bruce Lee ran down on Miller. Talking about in Game of Death. That's probably one of the best fight scenes ever shot with a guy that wasn't Bruce Lee, but choreographed the way Bruce Lee may have fought. And Sammo Hung deserves all the credit for that. And I'll tell you something. Bruce Lee, a.k.a. Ho Chung Tao, I don't like to call him Bruce Lee, and he doesn't like being called Bruce Lee. He was supposed to play the lead in Game of Death to fill in for the parts where Bruce Lee, was no longer around the film. And they wanted to use an assortment of guys playing Bruce. He told Golden Harvest, who came to them offering him an opportunity to play in the film, he said, no, I want to do it all by myself. I don't want to be a part of 3 or 4 guys playing him. One guy, you show his stomach, the other guy, his legs, he kicks, and me and my face, he's like, no, I want to do the whole role. I would have loved to have seen Ho Chung Tao handle choreography by Sammo Hung, because they say, word has it, legend has it, that Sammo Hung is the best Bruce Lee imitator bar none. And when he oversaw the choreography shot for the film Game of Death, he put guys through rigors of shooting scenes over and over again just to get the scenes down pat and perfected. But he was also schooling them on how to behave like Bruce Lee with mannerisms and body language and things of that nature. So that was something that he was able to do. But I would have loved to have seen him choreograph a fight scene or choreograph fight scenes with Ho Chung Tao, because Ho Chung Tao was a lot better than he fared on film, but it came down to whomever his choreographers were. When he had a number one choreographer like Yuen Wu Ping, like in the film Dynamo, he fought excellent on screen like that. He didn't have a lot of those roles where he fought, but there were a couple of times that I noticed straight away when he had a strong choreographer, he performed up to par. Eric is asking what will be the next film. I'm not sure because, I don't like to go with similar themes week after week. I like to take something different. So I'll have to think about it a little bit. But I was thinking about ABBOT or even The Protector, a Tony Jaa film. So I very well may do one of those, which would be a good change up. But yeah, while we can, let's hear from those who help me pay the bills. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're coming to the end of another Kung Fu Film Focus. I appreciate everybody that came out, man. Kind of show a little love for me this evening. And we simulcast on both of my channels, the Kung Fu channel as well as my main Stormy B-Man channel. So please, if you haven't subscribed to the Kung Fu channel, please go over and do so. There's already content uploaded over there. There will be more, because a lot of the stuff that I did on my regular channel that's Kung Fu related is just going to be uploaded over there, and you'll be able to watch it to your heart's content over there with support. So with that being said, we're going to get ready to get on up out of here, man. I want to say shout out to the mighty LDBC, and we'll catch you guys on the next one with another Kung Fu Film Focus. Peace to everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week.